Managing Director of Legend Mining. Mark, thanks for your time.
Good morning, Dave.
Legend in name and in nature, truly a legend in the Fraser Range, have built an exceptional project and exploration portfolio, but you're much more than that now. You've got nickel, which everybody's after, a very hot commodity. Tell us, what's Legend been up to in the last 12 months?
Dave, what we've really been doing is capitalising on our Mawson discovery from 2019, 2020. But 21's been an enormous year. You know, we've drilled 25,000 metres of diamond core this year. But the objective of that was to really understand the nature and the structure of the mineralised intrusive, which just means the right rocks, at Mawson, which is the guide or the leader to where the accumulations of this massive nickel copper sulphide are that we're looking. But in addition to that, we've gone out regionally and put a diamond hole in the Magnus prospect, a diamond hole in the octagonal prospect, and we're currently drilling down at Hurley and Crean. And what's going to come out of this, I suspect at the end of the year, is Legend is going to have 3 separate areas which all have the right signature and ingredient to carry what everybody's looking for out there, the next Nova or Nova Plus. And the 3 for people to look at will be Mawson, obviously, Magnus and octagonal.
And are you confident with what you're seeing?
As confident as you can be, David. You know, it's tiger country. You mentioned before, we arrived there as people had their tongues hanging out, got the stitch and were leaving. But you have to have that passion. I think you have to have the systematic and persistent approach to exploration, and it's almost a measured approach. We've done that to date. We won't change next year, and what people should be looking for is the telegraphing or the message that we'll get out as to how we're going to go about systematically looking deeper at Mawson, looking at Magnus and looking at octagonal.
And you talk about systems and being systematic, and it's really important because every time you do something you're learning and you're learning and you're adding and you're learning to that knowledge. How much have you learnt in the last 12, 18 months?
Hopefully plenty, because with 25,000 metres of core to look at, I can guarantee you there's a lot. You know, to be sort of trite of me in a way to say, it's not just the nickel and copper and cobalt mineralisation that you're getting. You're getting access to wet chemistry with a whole bunch of other pathfinder elements which are telltales for what you're looking for. You're doing the structural analysis so that you can understand how this intrusive came to be where it is and where it's come from, because that's a very key element in what we're looking for. But trap sites that are likely to be the natural places where you can get the metallurgical and the physical coinciding to give you the accumulations of massive nickel copper sulphide.
What does the next 12 months look like?
It's going to be a bit tricky for me to sort of be too specific, David, other than to say, look for a continued systematic approach in areas which we rate, because we will rank them, and just go about our business looking at the best first, etc., etc.
Majors love looking at companies with projects as they develop and get more and more exciting, and clearly you're doing that.
Yep.
How closely do you think bigger companies are watching what Legend is up to?
I'd be surprised if there's not a very intense interest. IGO is our second largest shareholder.
Yep.
It would stun me if they don't monitor closely what we're up to. We work quite well with them. We're a joint venture partner. We have meetings. You know, the consolidation of nickel with what's going on with the IGO Western Areas, you've got BHP who's got the Kambalda smelter. I think it's a very interesting space.
And we're seeing also that the end users are coming much further down the chain and having a more active role with the potential off-takers and those groups. With the advent and the massive growth of gigafactories and battery manufacturers and that battery thematic,
Yep.
do you think, not just for Legend, but for nickel players generally, that you're going to start having conversations directly with battery manufacturers, whereas before you might have been a couple of steps removed?
David, I think it depends where in the chain you are or where on the ladder you are in terms of being able to negotiate an offtake agreement. And so if you're a producer, there's obviously massive interest. If you're a project developer, there's massive interest. But if you're like Legend, where you don't have a resource, but you've got a great project and you're going about the process of demonstrating a resource, a lot of those people are challenged by the risk. And they're a bit too frightened to come into the space because they don't mind paying, but they'll pay when you've de-risked it with some sort of resource. So, look, there's enormous interest, but there's interest in engagement, and it's the engagement that I think in reality happens up the chain from where Legend is at the moment.
But importantly, you're de-risking your projects to bring yourself further up the chain.
Oh, massively. You know, that's why we did the metallurgy with our sample from Mawson. That's why we did our first stage environmental survey. All of these things take time when you get to that end of the process, and you know, we have confidence enough in what we've got to date to start those processes in action.
A confident management team, a systematic process, well funded and in a fantastic jurisdiction. Exciting times ahead for Legend shareholders. Mark, thanks for your time.
Thanks, David. Pleasure.